Welcome to the VS Criminal Defense Attorneys podcast, providing an informative resource on criminal law with a specific focus on sex crimes. From protecting yourself from false accusations to understanding the exact boundaries of the law, being informed is always the best first line of defense. This podcast series is reviewed and approved by attorney Michelle Villanueva-Skura.
In this episode, we break down how DNA evidence works in sexual assault defense, exploring its strengths, its challenges, and why it plays a critical role in Arizona cases. Imagine being accused of a crime you have not committed. This is a delicate situation where your testimony will probably go against that of another regarding a delicate topic, and your liberty will surely be at stake. In sexual assault cases, this scenario happens more often than people think. That's why DNA evidence can be a crucial deciding factor that your defense attorney can use to dismantle the state's case. It's basically the difference between a guilty and innocent verdict. In a state like Arizona, where sex assault charges carry severe consequences legally and emotionally, DNA proof is generally the priority when developing a defense. DNA proof can prove the facts, verify innocence, or raise doubt regarding the prosecution narrative. The thing is that DNA proof is not always as clear as it seems. In this podcast, our skilled Mesa sexual assault lawyer will explain how DNA is used in the defense of sexual assault allegations, its benefits and limitations, and why familiarity with its use can be the difference maker in the outcome of a case. Let's begin by understanding DNA evidence in sexual assault defense cases. DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid, is a personal genetic map that contains every cell of a person's body. That's why it is so accurate for identification purposes, as it serves a unique feature for each person, apart from identical twins. It's an invaluable resource in criminal cases. Forensic experts may recover DNA in sexual assault crimes with items like blood, semen, saliva, skin cells, or hair found at the crime scene or on victims' clothing. These samples are later analyzed in a lab by expert analysts to generate a DNA profile, which may then be compared with suspects' samples or in retained databases. DNA evidence can link someone to the scene of the crime or prove they were not there. However, while DNA can confirm physical contact, it doesn't always prove whether or not the action was forced or consensual. That's why DNA evidence should always be put into the overall context of a case. Now, how is DNA evidence used in sexual assault cases? In sexual assault cases, DNA evidence can be the crucial factor to prove the facts and support or discredit the claims made for the case. Its main role is to prove whether physical contact was made between the parties and also to help identify the person involved. After receiving the complaint, police will typically collect biological evidence from the victim of the crime through a sexual assault nurse examiner, or SANE, which is a type of forensic examination, also known as a rape kit. This usually involves body, clothing, or environmental object swabs. Then, DNA is extracted from these samples and matched with the suspect's DNA profile to analyze the results. Some of the most frequent applications of DNA in these cases include identifying or eliminating a suspect. If the DNA recovered at the scene belongs to someone familiar, they can be linked to the incident. If there's no match, then it can generate doubt regarding their involvement. Confirming or denying evidence. DNA analysis can support a victim's or defendant's account of what happened, like establishing who was present and whether contact did happen. Facilitating consent defenses. In other cases, the presence of DNA is assured, but not consent. DNA sometimes confirms sexual contact, but not if it was consensual, a useful differentiation in many cases. Next, let's explore the types of DNA tests used in sexual assault cases. Here's a list of some common forms of DNA tests used in sexual assault cases. YSTR testing, STR testing, mtDNA testing, touch DNA testing, secondary transfer DNA testing. These DNA samples help experts pinpoint suspects or determine how important certain evidence is. But if there's any mismatch in the DNA evidence, it must be investigated more deeply. It's important to consider the ethical and legal issues that come into play when using DNA evidence in Arizona sexual assault defense. Privacy issues and DNA databases. The intersection of privacy and DNA evidence in sexual assault defense demands rigorous examination of genetic information databases. The potential for privacy breaches and misuse of this personal data presents a significant challenge. Having a balance between using DNA evidence for defense and protecting individual privacy is a crucial ethical and legal consideration. Consent and contamination issues. In Arizona sex assault defense cases, DNA evidence usually relies to a large degree on issues of consent and contamination. It's crucial to obtain proper authorization to collect and analyze DNA samples. especially to ensure evidence integrity and compliance with the law. At the same time, prevention of DNA sample contamination is also important to avoid misunderstanding of evidence and also protect the stakeholders' rights in the case. Here are the Arizona legal requirements for admission of DNA evidence in court. Arizona DNA evidence has to adhere to strict legal requirements before being admitted into court. These requirements include not only the collection, but also the storage and analysis of the evidence. One of the most important legal factors is chain of custody. This ensures the DNA sample's integrity by documenting every person who handled it, so that there's no risk of contamination or tampering. Any break in this chain of custody can lead to the DNA evidence being inadmissible by court. Additionally, in Arizona, DNA testing for court cases must be performed in licensed forensic laboratories. These laboratories must follow strict scientific methodologies, including standards for precision, equipment calibration, and quality control. Before accepting DNA evidence at trial, the judge will determine if it meets the Arizona Rules of Evidence, specifically Rule 702, regarding expert testimony. The court will need to be convinced that the science behind the DNA test is valid and relevant to the case. In short, DNA is a solid argument against sexual assault claims. However, it must be collected and examined properly before using it in Arizona court. Let's now focus on the advantages of DNA evidence in defense strategy. DNA evidence is a very helpful defense for sex assault charges, especially for refuting false accusations. Some of its benefits include exoneration of the suspect. This is probably the greatest advantage, as it can clear a suspect. DNA found at the site of the attack that is inconsistent with that of the accused can be used to acquit or dismiss the case. Establishing an alibi or alternate theory. DNA evidence can be crucial in demonstrating the culpability of another person, especially when it indicates an unknown profile or a different person altogether. Reversal of tainted or inadequate investigations. The defense can challenge the case's integrity by highlighting police contamination of samples or flawed DNA analysis. Exaggeration of reasonable doubt. Even with DNA recovery, inconsistencies in how the DNA appeared or was tested can cause enough doubt to challenge the prosecution's claims. Used properly, DNA evidence has the potential to divert attention from conjecture and to scientific fact, which is quite crucial in delicate cases like sexual assault claims. If you or someone you know is facing criminal accusations or allegations, having a Mesa sexual assault lawyer experienced in DNA-based defense is essential. It's difficult to work a charge of sexual assault with DNA evidence. While forensic data can be valuable to the defense, it requires knowledgeable legal guidance to properly analyze and present in court. A great criminal defense attorney understands how to interpret laboratory reports, contest the accuracy of the prosecution's evidence, and secure expert witnesses when necessary. If you or a loved one are being charged with sexual assault in Arizona, you don't have to face this challenge alone. Contact VS Criminal Defense today to schedule a confidential consultation. Our experienced attorneys have the experience and knowledge to handle complex cases and will advocate for you so that your voice is heard and your rights protected. Call us at 480-923-9001 or visit us online at vsattorney.com.
Thank you for listening to the VS Criminal Defense Attorneys podcast. VS Criminal Defense Attorneys are focused on offering clients personalized service and aggressive representation. Our attorneys are passionate about individual rights, government accountability, and personal freedom. No matter what you are charged with, our criminal defense attorneys will be there to guide you. Call today to schedule your strategy session. It is time to fight back.